Hello you guys, and welcome to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah, and today I'm really excited to share one of my best decluttering hacks to help you think logically about the items that you might want to get rid of or you feel like you no longer need in your life. So if you're stuck about what to declutter, this is a very logical and somewhat mathematical approach that can make it very easy for you and eliminate some of the guesswork. I'm calling it the utilitarian approach, but I don't know if there's an official name for this. I know recently on this channel I put a video out where I was getting rid of sentimental clutter. Well, that video was more so talking about sentimental items. This video is more so talking about items that have a specific use or purpose, but don't necessarily have the emotional attachment. And we're looking at the uses and the effectiveness of the use of these items. So I'm going to talk you through the approach and give you a couple examples of items that I keep, but to show kind of what the numeric values of that are. Now, with the utilitarian approach here, what we're trying to think about is what percentage of time is this item actually being used? So if you think about it, if we were using something 100% of the time, like 24 hours a day, that's something very useful. Obviously, your space, your home or apartment, that's being used 100% of the time. Even if you're not in the house or apartment at that moment, your stuff's being stored there. So, we don't really have many things that are being used that full amount of time. I think what's great about this approach is that it forces us to think, how often am I actually using this stuff? Let's look at a few examples to try to do some calculations. So first up, I have my computer. Now, if I have to be honest with you about how much I'm on my computer, let's say for the purposes of this that I'm on this for 6 hours per day. Some days it's more than that, some days it's less than that. This is like my lifeline for all the work I do. So, thinking about me using this 6 hours per day, that's roughly 1/4 of my day. So, when I think about it, I am using this computer 25% of the time. So when I do the math on that, that's pretty good utility. That out of all my time here, that this is being used 25% of my time. So therefore, it's important that I take good care of this. I'm buying, higher quality versions of it. And this definitely is something that I would never get rid of because 25% is a huge percentage. Another item that's a huge percentage is my sleep mask. Much lower value in terms of the other item, but because I am somewhat of a sensitive sleeper and I don't really get that much sleep, I want to make sure the sleep I do gets very high quality. So the sleep mask helps me. Let's say I'm sleeping about 6 hours per day. That typically, it ends up being between like 5 hours and 7 hours, depending on what day it is. If I'm using this for, we'll just do the math again, 6 hours a day, that is about 1/4 of my day. So I'm using this 25% of the time. Also a very high number. But now let's go to some items that I'm still keeping but are used much less. Next up, I have a pair of jeans. Now I do only have one pair of jeans, so this pair of jeans might be different than if you have 3 pairs of jeans you alternate between. I wear jeans on Fridays and sometimes on the weekend, but I prefer yoga pants and pajama pants on the weekend. So I will just say for this purposes that I'm wearing these pants for one day, and we're just gonna say 16 hours. That includes me being at school on Fridays where I'm wearing the jeans, and then a few hours extra on Fridays or here and there. I am the kind of person who usually puts my pajamas on immediately when I get home, so there's that. When I do the math on that, that one day, it's being worn for quite a bit of the day. But when we combine it, like let's say per week, then if we're trying to get a percentage, 16 hours, each week there's 168 hours. So if I'm wearing these for 16 hours a week, that is roughly 10%, which means that this pair of jeans is used about 10% of the time. It's a little bit yet less useful, but still relatively useful when we think about comparing to other items. Here's another useful tool. This is a can opener. With the can opener, we're gonna have a much lower utility on this one. The utility on this, I would say I probably open one can maybe once a week. We'll just say once a week. How long does it take to open a can? Like 10 seconds, 15 seconds? We're just gonna round up for easy math and say I use this for 1 minute each week. Now each week there are 10,080 minutes. So if I'm using this rounding up for 1 minute per week, I'm using this 0.00 9% of its time. So I'm hardly using this. Like, it's useful when I need it, and I'm not going to get rid of my can opener because I do need it sometimes. I may actually use it sometimes. When you think about such a low utility value, I think ideally we want the items that we have to be the items that we use. And so I use this sometimes. But the fact that even if I use this 1 minute per week, which is opening maybe multiple cans of food, that's a very low utility value. Likewise, here's a random book. This is a smoothie book, and I do really like the book, and I'm not planning on getting rid of it, but I don't use this very often. I might look at smoothies in here once per month, maybe once every other month. That's not a high utility value either, because when I look at a smoothie, I might spend a few minutes deciding which one I'd like to make or which one matches the ingredients I have on hand, but I don't actually do that, that often. So that's also another example where an item has lower utility. So how can you use this utilitarian approach in your life? I don't think it makes sense to walk around your house and go through all the calculations. What I hope that my sample calculations I did here show you is that each of your items you have in your space are used a certain amount of time. You've got your go-to items that you're always using, but my guess is that there's a lot of items that you're hardly using. Maybe there's some items that you look at and you realize you don't use them at all, not even as much as the can opener or the book that I showed you, which already had a pretty low rating. There's definitely things that we need to function every day and that do have important uses, even if we don't use them often. And I think this is a great chance to think critically about these items and decide, are these actually useful to us? Am I using this item, at least on a semi-regular basis? Besides these items here, a lot of the stuff that I declutter are items that haven't been used at all for months, sometimes longer than that. And that's where you can use this approach and really think closely about your items. Now, some items have seasonal utility. So maybe you don't use it in a certain season, but then in another part of the year, you're gonna use it a lot. Obviously, hold on to those then if they are things you actually use. Some items maybe have an unpredictable use amount. Maybe it's with different tools that you use to repair things. So you have those tools ready to repair something when it breaks, and you don't know how often that is or when that will be, but you have them and you do use them. Awesome. The point of it is just to use that as a more logical or objective lens if you're struggling with feeling guilty or more emotional about some of these useful items that you might not be as likely to have an attachment to. If this is a hack or approach that you think might work for you to help you declutter, I definitely urge you to try it out. Maybe think about starting in certain sections of your home or apartment to begin the decluttering process with this new lens. Likewise, I think it can be helpful even from the preventing shopping perspective when you think about items that you buy and what they're actually going to be used for. If it's something that's going to be used very often and you know that and you kind of feel there's a void that it will fill in terms of the tasks that you're doing, that is something you can use to help determine whether or not you should make that purchase. So that's what I have for you guys today. I am curious what your thoughts are about this approach, but regardless, if you are looking for more decluttering inspiration, you are welcome to join my newsletter list. I'll put the link down below. There's a couple decluttering guides that you can get there, as well as check out some of our past videos over here. And of course, if you're new and you would like to subscribe to the channel, you can click right there to do so. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.